this is Julie. Hey, um, there was some problem with a tutorial I did a couple days ago. Apparently, my mic wasn't working, so I'm going to be redoing that one, but I'm also doing this one. They should both be short because I won't have to do all the hunting for special effects and things, sound effects that I did in the first one. So, but first I figured this one might be useful too. Now, I've already processed this upper voice, Masterton. He's on the phone, and I've processed it using a very high pass filter to get this
So,
sound.
even if he doesn't know what happened, he can find out, right?
You know, I hope it's still hearable. Now, meanwhile, the other voice is like this.
He's talking.
Okay. So, I'm not going to give every single step of what I did, but this whole scene turns into, I mean, this is just the voices, obviously. It goes from this, and here, let's just play the whole scene here.
Yes?
He's talking.
Good. We need to know if the site can be cleared.
He left long before shit went down.
So, even if he doesn't know what happened, he can find out, right?
He won't agree to a sitting.
Convince him.
Good luck with that.
Convince him. I sent someone along to help.
Who?
An old friend.
And you didn't warn me why?
Last minute decision. You were already with the target.
Why? Why is this whole thing so important? I mean, sure, Agent Judge wants closure, but in the grand scheme of things, why are we putting so much effort into this? It's one damn house. Long gone.
Well, there are always ramifications above your pay grade, Agent Cook. Schedule a sitting. Immediately, if not sooner.
Freaking bean counters.
Okay, so there's what I've started with. Now, what I've ended up with all the mixing and stuff, after I finished everything, is something that sounds more like this. Now, the thing is that I wanted to point out as I went along, one thing is I gave him a little bit of reverb and room tone just to clear up his voice a bit. Just to make it a little bit easier to hear. And then I've got these traffic sounds above going on. And one thing that's important is listening to how the stereo on the background sounds on the traffic comes out. So listen to this scene very critically to see what's going on other than the voices.
Yes?
He's talking.
Good. We need to know if the site can be cleared.
He left long before shit went down.
So, even if he doesn't know what happened, he can find out, right?
He won't agree to a sitting.
Convince him.
Good luck with that.
Convince him. I sent someone along to help.
Who?
An old friend.
And you didn't warn me why?
Last minute decision. You were already with the target.
Why? Why is this whole thing so important? I mean, sure, Agent Judge wants closure, but in the grand scheme of things, why are we putting so much effort into this? It's one damn house. Long gone.
Well, there are always ramifications above your pay grade, Agent Cook. Schedule a sitting. Immediately, if not sooner.
Bean counters.
I didn't like the way that last line, the freaking, came out, so I decided to just cut it off. But you'll see I've changed some of the volume in here. I've done a little bit of time changing. But to create the full outside feel, for one thing, she's coming out a door. She's still on the right side of the scene, as is the door, as she walks away from it a little bit. The idea is this soundscape is going to be a consistent one for the parking lot, and there's several conversations that take place in the parking lot over the course of the next few hours, hours of time of the show, the next few episodes, I should say. And so doing things like she walks, she dials the cell phone, all of that moves with her in from the right as her footsteps and her cell phone move, even before the speaking. I mean, it also says something that he picks up when it doesn't even ring yet. And then he hangs up, and then she waits and hangs up. Now, this is set in 1995, so it's a very old cell phone, too. But overall, what we've got is you've got a significant amount of sound on the very left side of the soundscape, which, I mean, this is...
We need to know if the site can be cleared.
He
you
left
hear a lot
long
more
before
stuff
shit
going on
went
in
down.
the left ear
So,
in the background.
Even if he doesn't know what happened, he can find...
And that's because on the right side there's a building. I mean, you kind of have to picture it visually sometimes. Now here we've got some other traffic that's more evenly mixed and more evenly distributed, but the idea is definitely that the traffic is very heavily tilted toward the left side of the scene because the right side has the building that she came out of. And that's the way all of the parking lot sequences are going to run, is with the same soundscape. And it may not seem like a huge deal, but it is one of those little things that you can do to just make the story a little bit more cohesive and have your background sounds really say something about where you're at. It's not just outdoors. It's outdoors with a street over there, and with a street over here on the left, and a building over here on the right. Anyway, so I just wanted to talk about that one a little bit. I also used a slightly higher high-pass filter on her voice because she's outside. My normal high-pass filter for almost everything is a 300, which is pretty low. It just takes out a little bit of underlying electronic noise, like, you know, the recorder, the recording noises and things. But when you're outdoors, your higher end goes farther than your lower end, and so I take out, I mean, if you ever think about it, just, you know, talk in a room for a bit and then go talk outdoors and see what carries most. If you get a little bit farther away, this is why high notes like bagpipes and stuff can carry for miles, but low notes don't really carry outdoors except through ground or water. So it's just a earball thing. Anyway, so I just wanted to talk about that one before I get on to the main one. So I'm not going to alter that at all, or this. Oops. But the one I'm really getting into here is we're going to get into scene 2. And scene 2 is the one that I tried to do before, and it got screwed up. So we're going to start on take 2. Tried to do it last night too, but it didn't work either because I think I've already done it though. Yeah, I'll have to start this over again. Let's see. Scene 2. Okay. Yes. Now, as you can see, what I have here is one voice talking for about a minute and a half with some sound effects. Now, I want to move this in just a touch because I want it to overlap his voice a little more than it does. And it's easier to move this in than to move all these things that way, because all of these are placed where I want them, and moving them with that direction would be difficult. It's always easier to move one thing than to move a bunch of things. So it's a little awkward, but it's, sorry about the snorking. It's been wind. It's so hot. My brain is fried. It's always something. It's always the weather for me. Anyway, so if you listen to this now, as I was editing through his voice, putting it in where I wanted it, I was popping in list of sound effects, and actually there's a laugh here too. A list of sound effects so that I could figure out where they went. And if you listen to the whole thing, this is how it sounds.
There are many theories bandied about regarding the existence of life after death, and more specifically about the existence and functionality of lingering entities, which for simplicity we will refer to by their common nomenclature as ghosts. Quick poll. How many saw Ghostbusters? Looks like most of you. Great. Now forget about all that. Spirits seldom have we'll call it energy for now, the energy to maintain much of a facade, let alone be a Class 3 free-roaming vapor. Most hauntings that can be verified are much tamer. Small objects moving, bad smells, occasional glimpses of a face in the mirror or through a window. Often ghosts are associated with induced entropy, things that age before their time, like wilted flowers or crumbling, decayed paper. The debate as to whether the personality of the dead truly remains, or just residual energy after death, usually a violent death, is an ongoing one. Despite people claiming to have messages that specifically purport to come from dead loved ones, there is an element of wish fulfillment about most of them, and the interpretation of any such message must be looked at very closely. Yes, you?
Okay, basic lecture. Sounds like a small room right now. We're going to make this sound like a big room. And this is something, there's a lot of presets for things like lecture halls and things, and that's, all very well and good, but for this, I'm going to do it from scratch, and that's why we're going to call it, I don't want to mess up this version. No, seriously, save as, hello, okay. So basically, the first thing that we want to do, is we're going to clone these two. We're going to duplicate those two tracks because he is on a microphone, and these sounds which are close to him will come through partly on the microphone. So this is going to be the microphone track. Now, we're going to save this again as we're working on it. I'm going to mix him together with his sound effects here. And this is the prof. This is the original prof, the professor. And then these sound effects I'm going to take down because the microphone isn't picking them up as much. Oh, shut up. No. I got too much crap on my desk. I've got cords running back and forth across everything. Okay, -10. And so it's picking up some of the noise, but not all of it, because they're not right up in the mic like he is. And then I'm going to mix those, and that one we're going to call PA for the public address system. He's on a microphone. Now the original track, to make the room sound larger, we're going to make him sound smaller. Maybe not that small. Okay, and that's his original track, and we're going to set him off. The listener, us, I'm going to refer to it as us, or the ear. The ear is somewhere to one side of the auditorium. It is not directly across from the professor. The professor is to one side of us. And we're going to posit that the PA is actually speaking from the opposite side of the room, from the professor. So it's rounding out. So we're hearing the PA kind of to one side and the professor to the other. And the PA is going to be much louder. So we're going to, actually, before we do anything else, I want to get real up close and personal right here at the beginning. And we're going to offset them a little bit. There's often a little bit of delay. So I'm going to take a teeny tiny little fraction of a second difference. I click in the track, hold the shift key down, and hit the control left button or right button twice, just to get this tiny little slice of sound. Then I copy it and paste it in.
There are many theories bandied about,
which just offsets him a little bit. It puts the recorded sound at a teeny bit later than
There are many theories bandied about,
which makes it sound slightly artificial. Now, to make it sound more like it's on a PA, obviously, we're going to put reverb on it, but first I'm going to take the sound down some on this one. So we're going to affect reverb. And I may not be doing this the same way I did the first time. If not, I apologize. But that kind of is what happens when I'm going to add 3 here just to even it out a bit. That's kind of what happens when I'm a very free-form person. I don't follow necessarily a preset pattern of things to do. I just know in my head what I'm doing, and sometimes they end up differently. But I always get where and what I want. So let's listen to this.
There are many theories bandied about regarding the existence of life after death, and more specifically about...
You see what I mean? We don't want to use the echo function because the echo function creates multiples. It would be there are that's the echo is totally wrong for this. Reverb is right, but here it's just a little delay, so it sounds definitely like it's an artificial, but it's still good and loud. Now, the next thing I want to do is actually take, his original track and all of the other sounds, make a duplicate of those 2 tracks together. Now, I have a function set up to do that. If I didn't, then what I'd have to do is highlight them, duplicate them, and then mix the duplicates, just so you know. I have a shortcut key to do that specifically when I'm doing room tone. Because what I'm going to do now is room tone, because if you think about it, the room itself has an echo. We have not put that echo on yet. We put on the recording echo. So there's another layer of, not echo, but reverb, I should say. There's another layer of reverb that we don't yet have. For instance, if you listen to the crowd, they don't have any
theories
reverb.
bandied.
So now we're putting reverb on everybody. It's not going to be as much, but it is going to be kind of different. Let's go. Yeah, let's use the same reverb. I have no idea what any of this stuff means. That's the problem. So I just use the same thing over and over again. But, and just for the hell of it, I'm going to swap the stereo channels. That sometimes does really interesting things with reverb. Let's go. Let's take this down a little bit more. Okay.
There are many theories bandied about regarding the existence of life after death, and more specifically about the existence and functionality of lingering entities, which for simplicity we will refer to by their common nomenclature as ghosts. Quick poll. How many saw Ghostbusters? Looks like most of you. Great. Now forget about all that. Spirits seldom have we'll call it energy for now, the energy to maintain much of a facade, let alone be a Class 3 free-roaming vapor. Most hauntings that can be verified are much tamer. Small objects moving, bad smells, occasional glimpses of a face in a mirror or through a window. Often ghosts are associated with induced entropy, things that age before...
I'm going to stop this real quick because I am going to undo this and do it again. I'm not happy with these laughs, and the reason why is they're very static. We're going to do something with these laughs, which I didn't do the first time, so this is a special tutorial. Okay. What I'm not happy with is the fact that they're really mono. They're really mono sounds. These 3 are. They're not. There's no difference left to right, and if you hear them, they sound like everybody's sitting in roughly the same space in the middle, And that doesn't really give you that big room feel, which is what I really want with this. So, I'm going to split this. I'm going to split stereo to mono first off. Yes, Bunny, my cat. Hello. She got her tummy shaved at the vet yesterday because she was just dying of the heat. And she is so full of beans today. She's like, woo, I'm all cool in my bikini body. My silly buzzcut kitty. She wasn't even supposed to go, but her brother vanished when it was his turn. So I'm like, well, I don't want to waste the appointment. I had to pay a fee anyway. Sorry, she's demanding attention right now. So we're just going to take a little kitty break. Bunny, can you get up on the chair? I'm going to have to put pictures of her up at some point. Come on, get up on the chair. Ah! She's still shedding like crazy. She's a very fluffy cat, and she sheds like crazy. Okay, now we're going to make this audience sound better. Now, it's not a horribly tricky thing to do, but it really does make a difference. Because all of this really, I mean, it sounds like it's somewhere right in front of us in a very small range. So let's go. First, we'll start with this, and I want to change, stop that. I'm going to take out half of this and paste it back in toward the end. Now, what that's doing is changing the relation of what's up here to what's down here, but keeping this part the same. Now, another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to arrange one of these way off to the left and one way off to the right. And part of the reason for that is the fact that we are trying to create this big hall sound. So you may not know what you're hearing, but you're hearing distinctly different things in both ears, and that's what I'm aiming for. Now with the laugh, I can't do quite the same thing. I mean, this could just be a couple people up front or something, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this laugh. Actually, I'm going to duplicate it. And I'm going to drag it back over here. Now this is a very small laugh, so this I'm actually going to take down by quite a lot. And I'm going to bring these in a bit. Now, to make these two different but similar, I'm going to change the tempo on one of them. We'll change it by 5, and we'll do the same thing on this one here. So now let's see what we've got. Now that sounds like a much larger room with a little bit of difference to it. Now because, let's see, which one got tempoed up? This one is shorter. We're going to also, actually we're going to also copy and paste just a skosh of sound in there. So we still have a light laugh, but now it's varied around the room. And when I say to do the thing where you click in the track and then use the cursor key, this is very dependent on where you are in Zoom. Because if I do 2 cursor key moves when it's zoomed down, it comes out that big. We'll go ahead and make that over here. But if I do them when I'm zoomed to this level, it only comes out that big. So you gotta watch where you are in visually before you do that, because you always want to use just a teeny tiny little slice, not a big old one, because you forgot and did it while your screen was really small. Okay, now for this one, because it is a larger laugh, let's go ahead and steal some of this. Since we already have the track, we can just paste it in here. Oh, how clever. Julie, you're so clever. Now, again, I don't want to make the laugh too much bigger than it already was. In fact, this is actually the same laugh. I just volumed it up. Ha ha ha. But we're going to change tempo, and this time we're going to go 10. And I'm going to move these very apart. And then we'll do change tempo here with a 6. So, and then we're going to take the volume down on these ones, because we don't want to really change the sound much. So we've still got basically a really short laugh, just, stop. And then to do this one, we'll just paste it in, and then we'll take these down. And rather than change their speed much, I'm actually going to just really, really offset them. These are just different ways to vary up a unique, a recognizable and sort of dull sound, to make it variable so that you can use it but make it different, so it sounds like it's not the same thing from a bunch of different people. Again, it's just creating this wave of sound that's a little bit different than what we had before. So that I didn't do before. I didn't think of that before. So that's lucky that I redid this. So now we're going to take not the PA sound, though technically the PA sound is also being affected by the room's reverb. So let's go ahead and take it. Okay, we've got everything highlighted. We're going to make a duplicate track. Okay, here's our room tone track now. And we're going to take this down by 15, and then we're going to put maybe I'll put G-verb on it instead. It's a different flavor of reverb, and I would rather use the two of them at their defaults than try remembering what numbers I changed them to. So let's see how this sounds. This is just the reverb. Let's see how.
There are many theories bandied about regarding the existence of life after death, and more specifically about the existence and functionality of lingering entities, which for simplicity we will refer to by their common nomenclature as ghosts. Quick poll. How many saw Ghostbusters? Looks like most of you. Great. Now forget about all that. Spirits seldom have we'll call it energy for now, the energy to maintain much of a facade, let alone be a Class 3 free-roaming vapor. Most hauntings that can be verified are much tamer. Small objects moving, bad smells, occasional glimpses of a face in a mirror or through a window. Often ghosts are associated with induced entropy, things that age before their time, like wilted flowers or crumbling, decayed paper. The debate as to whether the personality of the dead truly
So See, now when I'm listening to this, I'm picturing being kind of up in an amphitheater style, old school kind of lecture hall, because this is the late 80s. Where he's up and somewhere to my right, his left, and he's down. So he's a little bit to the right of me, but there's a whole bunch of the room off to the left of me. And that's how it sounds and feels to me. Now, the last trick that I'm thinking of pulling, just for the hell of it, is we're going to save this one, and then we're going to save it again. We'll get rid of the label track, and we'll actually mix everything. Okay. Now, just for shits and giggles, I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to swap the stereo channels, and I'm going to fade that out and fade this in. What it should do is slowly rotate, like we're rotating a little bit around the room, and move the position of the professor's voice in relation to us. It's not a huge
There are
effect.
many theories bandied about regarding the existence of life after death, and more specifically about the existence and functionality of lingering
It's like a
entities,
slow pan
which
of
for
a camera.
simplicity we will refer to by their common nomenclature as ghosts. Quick poll. How many saw Ghostbusters? Looks like most of you. Great. Now forget about all that. Spirits seldom have we'll call it energy for now, the energy to maintain much of a facade, let alone be a Class 3 free-roaming vapor. Most hauntings that can be verified are much tamer. Small objects moving, bad smells, occasional glimpses of a face in a mirror or through a window. Often ghosts are associated with induced entropy, things that age before their time, like wilted flowers or crumbling, decayed paper. The debate as to whether the personality of the dead truly remains, or just residual energy after death, usually a violent death, is an ongoing one. Despite people claiming to have messages that specifically purport to come from dead loved ones, there is an element of wish fulfillment about most of them, and the interpretation of any such message must be looked at very closely. Yes, you?
So you basically sort of slowly moved from kind of to our right to kind of to our left. It's like a slow pan with a camera. Slow pan style. No, sorry. There's a really funny video of Gangnam Style redone as low pan style from Big Trouble in Little China. And I might take the volume up just a little before I mix it into the main storyline track here. And I think I will replace this version because I do like it better. Because I didn't think of the laughter thing until we got into this. So I'm going to have to replace this musical cue too.
There are many theories bandied about regarding the existence of life after...
Because the musical cue needs to be the flashback cue, not the regular musical cue. Anyway, so I wanted to make this video. Let me make sure. Yeah, okay. To replace the old one and to make sure that it was as clear as possible. So I was streaming this even though it's not at my regular time, and I didn't really expect to get anybody to show up, but I wanted to get this done and clear and done right. So thank you very much, and I hope this helps.